Bonfires crackle loud, boots stomp, stars light up the crowd. Dirt road, pickup truck cruising slow. Bass thump, moonshine in the flow. Party in the sticks, we ain't going home. Fields lit, tractors in the zone. Cornfields, hay bells, dance till dawn. Country wild until the rooster song.
I used to believe everything. That's before I discovered a brain.
I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
Hi, I'm Norman Bates. Welcome to Exposed. Today I would first like to have you do a little experiment, if you would like. If you don't have to. But this experiment will explain a lot about how the media works and how they get their narrative pushed onto people. So without further ado, here we go.
This is going to blow so many of your minds. Okay, watch only the people in the white. I'm about to play a video. This is the selective attention test. Only count the number of passes between the people wearing white, okay? Only 50% of people get this correct. So I'm going to play the video. Watch this. Count only the white, okay? And pay attention. Okay, here we go. Remember, count only the passes for white. See if you can get this, okay? Pay attention. Okay, how many passes did you get? The answer was 15, but that wasn't the test. The test that's going to really blow your mind is that there was a gorilla, play it back, that walked straight through the middle, and you didn't even notice it because you were busy counting how many passes the white people were passing, right? And this is funny because this is a little bit how the media works.
So yeah, that gives you a little bit of a idea on how the media puts things in front of you to follow, and you lose sight of the gorilla in the room. So, and we would agree that probably this is one of the biggest cases going on right now. So it would seem that Idaho would put their best men on it, right? Their best detectives, they would put the best on it. Well, let's see what the best looks like.
This was the scene. Many investigators there with that U-Haul truck. This was the scene. Many investigators there with that U-Haul truck.
Okay, now that we've exposed the media and their agenda and the best that Idaho has to offer in this case, well, let's start thinking about some facts. I was recently looking at the text messages between DM and BF, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, and it seems to me that possibly Bethany Funk might not be at the house when these text messages are going on. She could possibly be at a hotel room. And it makes a lot more sense if you think about it, like Dylan's there by herself and Bethany is saying, you know, come to my room, it's better than being alone. So that's just one thing I've been thinking about a lot, how to make the text messages make sense. The 911 call that's come out, it seems that it's around noon when they make the phone call. That's about what time they kick you out of a hotel room, you know, noon. Seems to be any hotel room I've ever stayed at, you know, it's noon checkout time. So that would line up. So with those things in mind, it would also be understood that possibly BF, Bethany Funk, didn't have any, I guess, firsthand knowledge of what was going on in this house. The only knowledge she would have is what Dylan Mortensen had told her. So it would be easier to keep her off the stand, I guess you would say, if all her knowledge that she had was secondhand knowledge. And I think, in my opinion, that's the avenue they're going with trying to keep her off stand, or her parents, who lawyered her up immediately after this atrocity happened. Now, do I think that Bethany Funk is going to be able to not get put on the stand at all? No, I think she will be put on the stand, but it'll be very minimal, and you know, all she can really state is what she was being told at the time. But I think she was told something that has not come out in any of Dylan Mortensen's statements, and that has to do with the guy changing his clothes at the door. Now, we've heard different things from Dylan Mortensen, such as, you know, a guy with a mask with one eyebrow out. We've heard about a vacuum cleaner. We've heard about a fireman. We've heard bushy eyebrows. And it seems that Judge Hippler seems to think that all her statements are, you know, in line with each other, and they make sense to him. And in this courtroom, really, that's what matters, what makes sense to Judge Hippler. So, according to him, you know, Dylan Mortensen's statements are spot on, I guess. So, you know, that's definitely something that's going to be coming in the trial. Now, the DNA on the knife sheath, like I had mentioned in my previous video, the prosecution has used it all up, therefore it can't be tested by the defense. And so the defense has conceded to agree that the DNA on the knife sheath is Brian Kohlberger's. I believe they did that to lessen the conversation about this DNA on this knife sheath, which, you know, we don't even know if there was DNA on the knife sheath. As far as the defense goes, they can't test it. They did DNA on it and fingerprint analysis on the actual outside of the button, which was another odd thing to me, because in 99% of cases that I know about, they usually pick one or the other, whether they're going to do DNA swabs or they're going to do fingerprint analysis on a specific item, which on this one they did both. Now, they did not find any fingerprints, and as you know, they found that small bit of skin, I guess you would say, DNA underneath the button flap. Now, the thing about that is that when Othram Labs was doing their STR profile, in the midst of that and them trying to use genetic genealogy or whatever means they might have there at Othram, the prosecution had called Othram and told them to stop their work and to hand it over to the FBI. And they was going to try to do a little bit of investigating themselves. Now, somehow, when it was handed over to the FBI, and the FBI got it to wherever they do their DNA analysis at, it doubled in size, which is something that cannot happen. That doesn't happen. You don't magically get something that's this size and then it doubles in size without going back to the raw data that you had. And as they have been saying, after they did their initial swab, there was no more DNA left to add, or even for the defense to come to their own conclusion and make their own STR profile to see if it was their client whose DNA was underneath the button snap. So that's where we are with that. The motions in limine responses have been done now. So we are getting closer to this trial. And the closer we get to the trial, the more we see things like the 911 call release, at least the audio of it, to distract us from all the things that we have been collecting, I guess you would say, up to this point. And I think it's just a distraction, personally. I mean, yes, you can definitely get a better feel of what's going on the 911 call, but to me personally, it worsened the view that I had by just reading the transcript. And that's because it seems to me like they're portraying, or possibly it could be true, that they hadn't even been in the house from this hotel room that I believe that Bethany and Dylan had came from, and they had the neighbors meet them out front there. So when the operator did say that, you know, we need to know, is somebody unconscious or not, then that's where Dylan says, come on, Bethany, we have to go check. No, we have to. So, and then they get in there, and the hunter, I forget his name, but, you know, the hunter guy was up there, and you can hear him in there stating that, you know, it's Hunter. Are you guys okay? Don't quote me on that, but something like that, to where he does eventually get in there or reach his head around and peek in there, what have you, and sees a tragic scene and knows that it's not just a roommate passed out. I've heard things about he was puking, things of this nature, possibly. I mean, this from what I understand was a very gruesome scene, and that's in both cases, upstairs and in the middle floor. So, but I do hear, I believe I do hear Dylan saying poor Kaylee in the 911 call, and that was odd to me, because from what I understand, they hadn't even been upstairs or even talking about Kaylee, for that matter. It seemed like the focus was on Xana. And, you know, it's just odd to me that part right there where she says poor Kaylee. Now, let's use our brains that we have and think about if this scene was so bloody that it was seeping out the sides of the foundation, then whomever did this, like, obviously had blood on them, right? And on their shoes and tracked it everywhere. So, to me personally, there has been, or has to have been, some type of cleanup, you know, that was done after these atrocities. I think that there's no way around it. You know, I don't know any way possible to have something that vicious and violent happen without stuff getting everywhere. I mean, we've all watched crime, you know, like these crime shows where it shows how, you know, DNA spreads or evidence spreads, and for there to be no evidence at all coming from either one of the rooms, at least that I've heard of or seen so far, like footprints, even, you know, that's why also I want to bring this up. That's why I think the blood on the handrail would be something that was needed to be looked at. And this thing about the fact that, well, if we put that DNA profile in there, then we lose Brian Kohlberger's out of the system from the knife sheath. So that tells me, so what are you saying, that you can only have one suspect at a time? There's been plenty of cases where there's more than one suspect, so how did you do that? I just think it's odd that they say that the reason that they're not looking into this DNA profile has something to do with the fact that if they put it in CODIS, they will lose the knife sheath, when also, from my understanding, Brian Kohlberger wasn't in CODIS in the first place, so I'm not real sure why it would even matter if the knife sheath was kicked out of CODIS due to the fact she was investigating this blood on the handrail. You know, it's just very odd to me. So here's a couple things I want to look at real quick that caught my attention and maybe possibly interesting to you. But here we are. Let's look at these.
Was collected and given to Moscow Police Department.
It reads that way, yes, ma'am.
Where is it?
I do not know.
Who do I ask where it is?
That would be through the evidence custodian and MPD. That'd be my best direction for you.
Let's go back to RR for a minute, and if you can turn with me to page 4. I'll draw your attention to paragraph number 21, particularly subparts B, C, D, and G. Do you see where I'm talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
And there, we're talking about 4 different businesses all within the city of Moscow. Is that right?
That is correct.
And those are on Main Street in Moscow. Is that also right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And if I read the first sentence in that paragraph, am I correct in believing that Moscow Police Department should be in possession of all of those videos?
It reads that way, yes, ma'am.
Where are they?
I would have to direct you to the video that have been turned into the evidence lab at Moscow PD.
Am I correct in believing that the Red Star surveillance video was collected and given to Moscow Police Department?
It reads that way, yes, ma'am.
There, we're talking about 4 different businesses all within the city of Moscow. Is that right? And those are on Main.
If we take a look at this map here, I do believe these are the 4 businesses that they speak of in this clip I just showed you right here. the relevance I think this has to the case is the hotel, I believe, that BF had when she was speaking with Dylan at the house was this Fair Bridge Inn. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's in Moscow. It's right here where I'm pointing. And I think that this is where BF and Dylan spent the night. And then at noon, they went back to the house and met the neighbors in the front of the house to make the phone call to 911. So let me know in the comments below if you feel like that the text messages and also the reason the 911 call was made at noon makes more sense to you, if what I just said was the way it happened. Until then, Norman Bates, exposed, out.